Thank you so much for speaking with me, Governor Kasich. You're the only candidate who has had several appearances here in the capital region, albeit smaller appearances. Tell me why you prefer the town hall style
Oh,
type
the
of
town
event.
hall? Well, because people can ask questions, they can get to know you. It's not like I walk on a stage, blah, blah, blah. I want people to have a two-way conversation with me. That's the way in which you can actually win people over and get them to feel strongly about you. And that's all I want people to do, is to know me. If they like me when they know me, great. If they don't, I'll cry, but I'll be okay.
I know you've touted your record as the governor of Ohio, saying that you've
And in
turned
Washington.
in Washington, and that
Yeah.
you've turned specifically in Ohio, though, that you've
Yeah.
turned the $8 billion deficit into a $2 billion surplus. How does that translate into what your plans are for the national debt? I know we see the clock ticking all the time, the national debt
Right.
clock at your events.
Well, I balanced the federal budget with a group of people when I was there. So when the debt goes up, the job possibilities go down, and when the debt goes down, the job possibilities go up. So, you got to go to Washington, you got to have common sense regulations, lower taxes, and you got to have a fiscal plan that makes sense. If you do that, then people are confident, and job creators create jobs.
I'm not sure if you remember, but I did ask you this question at the Capitol, I think last week, talking about critics who have been urging you to drop out in an effort to unite the Republican Party, and you're steadfast, you're staying in this. Tell me why.
Well, I don't know who's uniting. Most of the people I'm running against are dividing, so I like to unite. And I'm the only one that beats Hillary consistently. In fact, the poll came out today that showed me beating her by 12 points. The other ones are losing. So why would I drop out if I'm the only one that can win in the fall? And why would I drop out if my message is one of, yes, we have serious problems, but we can fix them? I don't want to prey on people's anxiousness or their fears.
Just talk about your strategy, if you would, in New York, because New York, as you know, it's not a winner-take-all state, so it is possible you
That's
could.
why we're here. We were trying to pick up delegates, and we're here over and over because we think this may be a fertile ground, and we'll see. I hope the people will get out and support me, and we can have some delegates and move on and go to the convention with some momentum.
Sure. I wanted to ask you about comments that you made, I believe last week, in relation to sexual assault, something along the lines of telling women to avoid parties with alcohol.
No, that's not what I said.
So do you
No.
want to, just to clarify the
Well,
statement?
well, there's anything to clarify. Well, we are one of the leaders in the country in making sure that when women enter the universities and the community colleges, that they have a safe place to go, and that they're in a position of where they can have confidentiality if they're attacked. What I said is, look, I don't think it's ever safe to go someplace where you have a lot of alcohol flowing, because at the end of the day, I want to see justice. I want the perpetrator to be caught, and still can be, but sometimes prosecutors look the other way. They say, well, I can't, it's he said, she said. I don't like that. I want to make sure that those people that commit these acts are going to be pursued, and we're going to have justice.
I wanted to get your viewpoint on fracking. That's been a huge issue here.
I'm all for it.
You are.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I think it's possible to recover the resources that we have in our states and also have environmental protection. We do it in Ohio, and ultimately, as a result of cheaper energy, we can attract some jobs that otherwise we wouldn't get. So I think New York will ultimately do it. I think it will happen whenever you don't have an ideological battle here.
Okay. Also, water related, we have had some issues in Hoosick Falls with clean drinking water.
It's a big problem all over the country because you have these old pipes that contain lead. They have there's soldering of lead and things like that. So it's going to be up to all of us to figure out, are there resources available, particularly at the state and local level, to try to at least deal with the service lines, the lines that move in or in schools, whether it's the drinking fountains. We have to be aware of it, and we have to work together. And, there may be a need for some federal resources, but I also think that local governments can take on some debt to begin to deal with this problem and spread repaying that debt over time.
One of your opponents, Ted Cruz, was saying he wanted to shrink the EPA. Would you be in favor of that, especially when we have situations like in Hoosick Falls where they need perhaps some federal funding, though, to combat these problems?
No, I don't want to shrink the EPA. I just want the EPA to not go overboard and strangle us with regulations. I have an EPA in Ohio that's aggressive, but they don't strangle people with silly regulations or too much regulation. Just get the job done. But I think everything in government needs to be has to be most particularly job friendly, but that doesn't mean you have to be anti the environment. You can have a good environment and still have job creation.
Okay, last question. Now you have a town hall to get to. I know that you actually worked on Ronald Reagan's campaign. There was a contested convention that year.
Yeah.
So you're no stranger to this, back in your early years. Talk a little bit about that and how it could relate to what you're looking forward to in the summer.
Well, what I noted, and I was a young man when I did it, what I noted is the delegates take this seriously. When you go to a national convention and all of a sudden you're going to pick a president, it becomes a serious issue. So all this talk about walking out and yelling and screaming, I don't believe that's what happens. They're going to make a choice about who can be the next president and, of course, who can win in the fall. And I think it will be a unified party when it's all said and done.
All right. Thank you so much, Governor.